There we go. Good evening slash mid slash early afternoon, whoever you are with us today in whatever time zone you're in. I want to welcome everybody on behalf of the ASAE Young Professionals Committee to this installment of Drinks and Discover. Today we're going to be talking with some very distinguished ASAE fellows about the ASAE Fellows Program, how they got to where they are today, what kind of resources that they leaned on and leaned into to develop along their journey, and hopefully some good advice they have for all of you. I could introduce everybody, but I think they would do a lot better job introducing themselves. So I'm going to go around and ask each person to tell us who you are, what organization you're with, and what you're drinking, if you're drinking anything, and maybe something that you like to do. Everybody asks, who are you? What do you do? I'm going to ask you, who are you? What do you like to do? So let's start with Matthew.
Thanks. My name is Matthew Duva. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the International Association for the Study of Pain. We are a scientific medical society with members from around the world, and I'm really excited to be here today. I'm drinking iced tea today. Not super exciting, apologies for that. And what I like to do is I like to spend time with my family, definitely. And one of the things I really enjoy is cooking. So I like cooking all kinds of food, particularly Italian food.
Great. How about Hannes? Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. My name is Hannes Combest, and I am sitting in Lawrence, Kansas right now. And I am the Chief Executive Officer of the National Auctioneers Association. I am also drinking water, and that's because we are having a water challenge right now at our office, trying to get everybody to hydrate more. So I'm on glass number 5. I still have 3 to go, so I hope I get through it. I love to travel, and I love to drink wine. I like learning about wine, and I like traveling, so 2 great things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll have a whole other Drinks and Discover about that.
There you go.
Like some travel tips, particularly to wine.
I'm not a young professional, but can I please join?
Tony, let's hear your story.
Yes, hello. This is Tony Samuel, and I am the Deputy Executive Director of the National League of Cities. The National League of Cities is in Washington, D.C., and we are the largest association representing the 19,000 cities, towns, and villages across the U.S. And not very exciting, I'm drinking water, but I am drinking it from my favorite mug, a Vivian Tang mug, so it makes me happy because I like the art. And my favorite thing to do, if you ask anyone, is I love international travel.
Perfect. We've got our panelists already for that next Drinks and Discover. Tanya, how about you?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tanya Muse. I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of Manufacturers Council of Manufacturing Associations, which is a very long title. The NAM is a national trade association representing manufacturers across America. And I am drinking hot tea on a cold evening. And I'm pretty competitive, so I like games. I like to play board games, card games, bowling, and I love all kinds of sports.
Great, fantastic. So I'm a young professional. I'm in, the early mid part of my career. I'm interested in committing to association management and becoming an executive. And I'm interested in being a fellow. Matthew, what do I do to become a fellow? It's like a credential, right?
So it's not a credential, although there is a post-nominal attached to it. Well, everyone should get a CAE, right? So, I mean, I have to make the plug for the CAE, but that's just a good thing to do for your career, to really learn the profession and to understand the profession. But really to learn more about the Fellows Program and to become a fellow, it's really about your holistic, I would say, commitment to the profession, and really about being engaged in the profession, and less about striving to an accomplishment and more about through your engagement, just being connected to the community and going through the process.
Yeah, great. I'm curious, what does fellowship mean to you?
So fellowship means to me, and the ASAE Fellows is really, to me, has connected me to just a group of people that personally have helped me in both my career and also navigating sort of my personal life and the things that are really important to me about my family and other parts of my life that make me me, and be able to balance that with my desire and to contribute to the profession and contribute to my organization. So that balance piece of it has really grounded me through my relationships with the fellows.
That's great. Tony, how about you? What does your fellowship mean to you?
So it really is, while it's not a credential for me personally, it was a source of recognition that I have achieved something in my career, and achievement was very important to me. But actually, when you get into the fellowship, what was really, really meaningful to me is that there are a group of people who have somewhat had a similar journey, who have achieved a recognition and achieved things in their career that was worth a recognition, and that are willing to share, because I think we're always growing. Even though we're fellows, hopefully we're always in the mindset that there's more to learn and to grow as we continue in our careers. So you have a group of fellows who are there to support you, guide you, get advice from. But it really was meaningful because to me, it was a recognition from the profession that I love, that I have achieved something of significance for the profession and in the profession.
Yeah, that's great. Tanya, how about you? Do you feel similar? How does fellowship feel to you?
Definitely similar. I too agree that it's an honor to be recognized as a fellow. I've been in association management for 25 plus years, and so I think it's a recognition of my journey and the achievements and accomplishments that have come along the way. But the Fellows Group is a resource for me. It's an honor to be amongst a small group of association executives who I can turn to for advice, to help solve problems, for ideas, to get inspiration from. So a very good resource for me, and an opportunity for me to give back to others in the association community.
Yeah, that's great. Giving back seems to be a common theme among fellows. It's really great to hear. Hannes, how about you?
You know, I'm the newest fellow on this panel. I'm in the class of 2018. And I think one of the things that meant so much to me, like everyone has said, is the recognition of a career that I'm very passionate about. I love association management. And the one thing that I see about other fellows is that they love association management as much as I do. So to Tony's point, it's a place where I can grow and continue to grow. I am not a young professional. I have had a long career, but I am committed to continuing to growing and getting better every day. And that's one thing that with the fellows that I saw this last year at my first meeting, everyone there is committed to the same exact thing. They want to grow, they want to learn, and they want to give back. And that's just inspirational to me.
Yeah, thanks. I think all those stories are inspiration to all of us who just want to be really great and seek change and have landed in this industry in which we feel like we can contribute, as long as we're following the path of prestigious ASAE fellows like yourself. You all talked about and kind of hinted at this lifelong journey for more development, career development. Let's talk about how you did develop those leadership skills early on and as you progressed in your career. I'm going to stay on Hannes. I know it's particularly challenging when you're outside of the immediate DC area or the rest of, or most of the rest of ASAE is. How did you develop your leadership skills? Where did you turn?
You know, in the Kansas City area, we have a very active society. And we're a small group in Kansas City, and being outside the Beltway is difficult sometimes to find people that have different ideas and resources. So very early on in my career in association management, I found the Kansas City Society of Association Executives and began to bond with those people. And it has been a great group to learn from. I've continued to look to ASAE to learn from. People have been very kind of giving me resources and directions and tools that I can use and implement in my career. So I think those two places have been pretty significant for me.
Yeah, thanks. That's great advice for lots of association professionals that are not in the DC area, because I know it seems to be growing by the year as is. I'm interested now to hear from Tanya. I know you talked a lot about mentors and studying mentors. Can you talk a little bit about how you used mentors to develop your leadership skills, and then other tactics that you feel strongly about?
Sure. So I was fortunate enough, my second association job, still fairly out of college. Back then, I was fortunate enough to have a boss who I think saw some qualities in me, and I was, as I said, very hungry and wanted to learn more and to grow. And he positioned me in the association community. At the time, he was chairman of GWSAE and got me connected early on to that organization in ASAE. And he became one of my early mentors. But through the years, I've just identified, I've been surrounded by a lot of strong leaders, people who I saw some strong qualities and traits that I wanted to emulate, and always surrounded myself with them. I would spend time with them, ask them for coffees, or just connect with them and really learn from them. And I continue that to this day. I have a strong network within the CMA where I work of executives, and I've identified leaders through that organization, through my organization. Again, I surround myself, I read a lot, I listen a lot to others. And just, every day is a learning experience for me.
Yeah, that's great advice. Read a lot. Read. That's what I've heard from this group. For those who are unfortunately not privy to our great planning call, this group loves to read, and I think that's an example for the rest of us. Matthew, you said something extremely profound to me when we were originally discussing this session. You said, don't focus on title and responsibility, but focus on the experience, because nobody can take the experience away from you. Can you talk a little bit about that and other ways that you've sought out leadership development in your career?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Profound as well. I was a little intimidated by your description of that, but I'll let others judge what's profound and not. But I think, like has been said by my colleagues and friends on the call, that having opportunities to find mentors is, I think, a really incredible, important part. But in addition to that is not only finding that, but I think one of the things that, in being reflective about my career and the leadership skills, was I had opportunities, mostly created through leaders within my organization, but also I think I looked for opportunities to use my leadership skills when I saw a vacuum. So it could be something as simple as a project that wasn't being run, where somebody was leaving, and I thought that would be a really interesting project to learn, and volunteer to participate and do it. Sometimes I did it really well, and sometimes I wasn't as successful, but every time I learned a little bit more about myself, I learned a bit more about how to lead, a little bit more, a new skill. And I think that's one of the things that's really helped me in my career. And was I didn't necessarily wait to get the job promotion to sort of have the official responsibility. I volunteered to do something because I thought it would help me advance my career, learn something, and give me an opportunity. And sometimes that worked, and I had a promotion later on, or I had an opportunity to advance. And sometimes it didn't work. But when it didn't work, and the culture of the organization was one of, basically, they were going to use my expertise and then sort of not advance me, I could take that experience that I learned and still go somewhere else and use that experience to get a job in an organization that was going to recognize my desire to grow and what I could contribute. So I think that was a really helpful piece in my career early on, particularly.
Thanks, Matthew. That's great advice for all those listening, hopefully now, and who will see the recording later. Tony, I'm interested. I know that you sort of started a management track early in your career. What did that look like? What did you look to develop? How did you develop those skills? What did you seek out?
So I think for me, for whatever reason, it was just built in me that I knew that I want, whatever career I chose or direction I chose. I wanted to be what was considered like near or at the top. That is just something I always knew because that was just a point of achievement for me. So I was driven very early and did start in my management career very early. Now, it was not easy, but as Matt said, I took on the challenge and just learned at every point that I could. Mentored and having mentors were mentees were very important, but also taking up a challenge when it comes. Because I started early, there were challenges that I was faced with associations and organizations that I work with, but I didn't shy away from those challenges because, as Matt said, I used them to gain experience. But it was I will always look into what experience can I gain that's going to take me to the next level. Sorry, but I always had that trajectory. So if I had a budget challenge, if I had a staff challenge, I didn't shy away from it. I dealt with it and resolved it because I became a champion for my own development and knew that if I didn't shy away from those challenges as I was growing in my career, I was going to be able to take that experience to propel me. And I always tell young people, if you have the opportunity to take on a project or to participate in a work group, don't say it's not in your job description. Go outside your lane. Take on that opportunity, because I said you don't want to be sitting in that next interview and someone says to you, well, have you ever done project management? Have you ever managed a budget? And you had that opportunity perhaps to volunteer for that project or to oversee that budget and you didn't take it, and you're sitting there with a lost opportunity. So I think is you be your own champion for your development, take on experiences that you can assess are going to propel you to the next level, and then that can be in your arsenal. And as Matt said, no one can take that experience away from you.
Yeah, fantastic. So we've talked a lot about developing these skills and where we look for leadership development. Let's transition a little bit to then how do we utilize those skills and find the best fit to contribute. I know there was a lot of discussion of, okay, people want to be C-suite, they want to be CEO, they want to be the top dog. Is that really the best fit for them? Is that the best move? Maybe we could take turns and we could talk a little bit about how you individually, I'm going to start with Tanya. How did you find what organization or role that you felt best fit what you had to offer, and what steps did you take to get there?
So I always had a desire to grow, to learn, and as Tony just said, to get to the top. I just never settled for status quo. I was just always driven. And fortunately, I spent the bulk of my career with one organization, 17 years. And so by taking on different challenges or filling gaps or creating my own opportunity, I steadily grew within that organization. So I've been fortunate to, again, be surrounded by other strong leaders, strong executives, but I don't like to sit still. So I'm always looking for a new challenge. I'm very driven by a challenge. So if somebody says something can't be done, I'm trying to find a way to do it. Very focused and driven.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's really great advice for everyone to just do it, to just have that drive to get it done. That's kind of an underlying theme, I think, across the board is just get it done, right? Matthew, how did you go about identifying the right organization and role for you?
That's a good question. So I think for me, it's a balance between it's always been a balance between mission of the organization. So and for the most part, I always sort of felt like it was really important for me to be connected to the work of the organization and to find some sort of internal connection by the mission. At ISP, obviously, I'm extremely passionate about the work that we do to really pain around the world. And so I thought that's always been a really important part of the work. And I think that's, to me, the true joy of working in a business environment and association management, but then being connected to that social mission. So that's been important. I also think it's really important for people to find their passion within the profession. So I think all of us are talking about how we've been driven to be successful in our roles. And I think I mean, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I know them all and know that they're all very well suited and enjoy the roles that they're doing. And in all of our cases, they're management, executive director type roles. But I also think it's really important for people to find the passion about the kind of work that they like to do. So a C-suite job or a CEO job is really about being a very successful generalist and a very successful board governance navigator. I mean, we spend a lot of our time navigating the governance and the personalities and the strategy of the organization, and that's great. I love that, and I think a lot of us on this call do. But for a good part of my career, I was working in the membership and chapter relations and the component relations area, and I had a lot of passion for that, and still often refer to myself as a kind of a membership component relations guy. I kind of feel like that's where I kind of got my start, and that's the part of the field that I think I will always be somewhat connected to. And so I think that for people, it's really important, I think, to find your passion and what gets you excited. And sometimes that means pushing away from sort of the stream of saying the C-suite is the place to be or the CEO chair is the place to be. I think it's about being in a leadership role where you feel like you're maximizing the opportunity that you can have to be successful and to really have joy at work. And for a lot of people, that is not doing the kinds of things that the executive director or the CEO does. It's other things that are in leadership roles contributing in really important ways to the success of the mission of your organization.
Paul, can I jump in to add to that? As I was saying to you yesterday, a past experience I had is, as managers, we need to recognize that same passion in others and don't necessarily always assume that there's somebody who's doing a fantastic job that they aspire to be a leader or move up the chain in an organization. I had a woman who was a coordinator, and she did great work as a coordinator. So as I was promoted up, she was promoted into my position. It was a director position, and I had to manage her, and she wasn't doing well. And so I sat down with her and I asked her what it was, and she says, "I don't like talking to members." So here she was, director of membership, and so she was happy being behind the scenes. And so I found an opportunity within the organization where she was passionate. So she went to do research, and then she also managed our IT. So she wanted to be a behind the scenes person. That's where she was comfortable with. But I had to learn that. We all learn that, we just can't automatically assume that people want to do something that we think they might be good at, but we have to recognize where their skills are and where their passion is.
Yeah, that's a great point. Always thinking about, pulling up the next rung in the ladder. I like that. Tony, I know that you've been in lots of leadership positions and that you've always had to strive to be a leader. Was there ever an opportunity in a non-CEO leadership role that had sort of the responsibilities or traits of the position that really appealed to you?
Well, I would say that's exactly my position currently. I was fulfilling my drive to be in top leadership. So I was the CEO of 3 associations. And then I had this opportunity, the current opportunity, to actually become a deputy executive director. And I'm going to tell you, and my colleagues know this, I really had to think about that decision, because I'm like, well, no, that's not the trajectory. That's, but when I analyzed it and said, all right, it is the deputy of a larger association. It's expanded my responsibility in terms of budget 100-fold. It expanded my responsibilities in terms of staff and the number of staff 100-fold. The governance was more complex than my previous associations. And so I had to think, so what's my issue? And as I thought about it and got some expert advice, there really wasn't an issue, because it was still the direction that was taking me forward, given me more responsibility, more opportunity. And as Matt said, it was the opportunity to work for an organization that I had previously worked for and have an absolute passion for. So that worked for me, and I never looked back. So I would say to young people, yes, I have a passion, but look at your career trajectory in different paths in different ways. If it still gives you the opportunity to grow in terms of your responsibility, your accountability for certain things, then that's still growth. And I also think it's incumbent upon us as leaders that when we lead in organizations, we need to give value to different positions in the organization. Maybe people look at other coordinator positions or manager positions in a way that reflects how we see them. And what I'm trying to do within NLC is to express upon our staff, if you're good at something, an expert at something, that this organization values that contribution regardless of where it is in the organization. So I think we have something to contribute to how people feel about their journey.
Paul, may I jump in real quick?
Yes, please.
I think Tony said something really important too about passion and about developing that passion. We often think that you're going to find a job with an organization that you are aligned with politically or philosophically or any other way that you think. But oftentimes you can step back and you can find passion. It's about identifying that passion for an organization. With auctioneers, I mean, they are a particularly passionate group of people about their industry. And you go, seriously? But they really are. And as a result, for the last 10 and a half years, I have developed an intense passion for the auction industry. Now, I didn't have it when I came in initially, but it is there now. And if I would lead the organization today, I would still have that passion for that industry because I see the good that it provides. So don't think that just because there is an organization out there, you don't feel anything for it, that you don't have the passion for it. You can find it, and it's all about that membership. When you think about what you are doing to significantly impact the member, the individual member or company in your organization, you can find passion pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a fantastic point. I'm going to stay on you for now. In addition to that fantastic point you just made, are there other things that you have drawn on or can draw on? I know you've worked a lot with some smaller organizations, and perhaps they've provided more opportunities for you to do different things in your career. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I started off working in a university setting, first at the University of Kansas and then at a small organization, a small education college for Native Americans. And the thing that I learned there so much was I had grown up with very little diversity. And then all of a sudden, here I was, one of the very few people who were non-Native in a Native institution. It was a great learning experience, and it taught me a lot about how to listen to people. And I think Tanya's already talked about the need for listening to people. I think that's something we don't do real well in the United States right now, is just listen and find the common pieces as opposed to the disparate pieces that we have. And I learned a lot about that at HASC. And then moving on as well to the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America, it was totally different. But it gave me an opportunity to move and to look at different kinds of positions, from education to membership to professional development. It really created the opportunity for me to move into a C-suite position.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So do you have the same passion for golf course management?
I do. And it's really interesting because when you think, and everybody thinks they're unique, right? All of the golf course superintendents say, oh, nobody understands my job, and we're a very specialized organization, and nobody is like us. But I found out that auction professionals are very similar. Nobody understands their job. They're the low people on the rung, and it's the same thing that I've seen all over. It's there's not a lot of uniqueness. There's a lot of commonality, and so you can apply things from one place to another. And yes, I still have lots of members that I keep up with, and I look at them, and I'm very passionate about golf course management.
I say one more point about that? I mean,
yeah, please, yeah.
That's one of the most exciting things I find about association management, this profession that we love, is that I don't know of any other profession where you can have this learning experience, that you can go from diverse associations or trade associations or professional associations and learn a whole new aspect of a profession or a trade. And for me, and as we've said, this learning experience is just so valuable. I have gotten so much out of the different associations I've worked with. I may not be in that profession or that trade, but just learning about them, gaining a respect for those members, and just being able to expand my mind by learning a whole different profession or trade. I always tell staff, you may not be them, but you can be up. You might not be of them, but that you can support them and have a passion about the members, and that just makes your job so much more fulfilling. Yeah. I love this profession because of that.
I agree.
It's hard to tell. No, so we talked a lot about development, where you look to develop your leadership skills, how you found the position that spoke to you or was the best opportunity for you to contribute in the association space. Let's shift. Let's talk a little bit about what are maybe some unexpected things that have happened in your career, how you've dealt with both the positive and negative. I'm going to start with Tanya. What are some unexpected things that maybe popped up in your career that you've had to deal with, and how did you do it?
So the one that hits me the most, where I think I had the most learning gained, after being with my organization for 17 years, it was an industry that was shrinking. And there was a lot of merger and acquisition. There was a heavy movement from to online. And so budget shrank and I was let go. So after 17 years, I'm faced with having to look for a job. I had not interviewed for a job in 17 years. I had not updated my resume 17 years. So going back out into the workforce was like a culture shock to me. Everything was done differently. And I was in that bubble for that organization for a long time. And so having to update my resume in the different formatting and learn how people do interviews changed a whole lot. I mean, I got that job through a hard copy newspaper. It was a big shift online. So one of the things that I've learned, and at the NAM, one of the first things a colleague told me is always keep your resume updated. Keep it fresh, because you just never know. And then again, through reading and through talking to others, you just make those connections, keep your network strong. And so I had to lean on my ASAE network. There happened to be some fellow association executives who were in my CAE study group who also had lost their job throughout the year. And so we created our own support group. We would meet monthly and share resources. I saw this job that you might be interested in. I'm going to this seminar or webinar. I have this opportunity that might not suit me, but it's you should take a look at it. So I really leaned on my support group through that I've met through the ASAE network. But I would always say, just always connect with people, keep your network. You never know where there is an opportunity. And again, it goes from listening. I listen a lot. There might be small nuggets of information that you learn along the way that you might not be able to use it now, but you might have that opportunity to use it in the future. And just stay in touch with people. Send notes every, once in a while, thinking about you, or hey, just checking in, or let's meet for coffee or something like that. So I learned the hard way that there's this whole world outside to so singular focus, because you don't know when you need to lean on others.
Yeah. Just to jump on that, I couldn't agree with Tanya more in terms of getting outside of your organization. I think I've had the good fortune of working in both a large organization and a smaller organization. And so I've had a middle size, whatever, the whole sort of the piece. But I think it's really valuable to work on developing your networks in the profession. with people who are outside of your organization, because I think that experience of that you can bring back to your organization. I think, you know, Tanya mentioned a really difficult situation when you need to get those networks activated when you're looking for your next opportunity. But I think even using those opportunities and those networks to help you in a current opportunity. I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was the first time I had a CEO opportunity, and maybe not understanding all the information or not having ask all the right questions potentially when I first started the job, and sort of walking in a small staff organization, and frankly needing to fake it with my colleagues who were looking to me to lead the organization for them, and but needing to figure out how I was actually going to do that, and really leaning on people that had expertise outside of the organization, that could help me think about things differently. For those who know me, I'm extremely extroverted, so I am a huge verbal processor. So I need to process things like that, and so you can't verbally process with your team. You have to do that some way. So those are things that I have had to find and do. And frankly, on the reverse side, where I've had opportunities to be a sounding board, for colleagues in my cabinet, if you will, my cabinet of close, you know, friends and confidants, I have learned so much about just my job and my own self, and by helping them, by listening to what they're challenged with, listening to what their struggle is at work, and helping them, you know, in any way that I can navigate those experiences. You use that later, and so I think that whole experience, for me, has been a really important part of my professional development, and I really encourage people to seek out those individuals, stick with them. Don't look at it as a transaction, because if you really build relationships today, those are the people in the profession that are going to remain connected to you. And as their careers go in different directions, as does yours, there's going to be these really exciting connection points through your career that is just going to be magic for all of you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love this idea to develop and build your cabinet of peers to help you do it. It sounds a lot like that's in some ways what the fellowship is, the ASAE fellows. So, and it's exciting to hear that it works at all levels, and that people should take it seriously and probably start as early as they can by being involved in ASAE and going to events and networking and learning and growing that way. Let's hear from Hannes. What's something unexpected that happened in your career that you had to address or react to?
Well, I think what Matthew said is really important. I think, I don't know too many people who have taken a C-suite job that have walked in and been totally prepared. There's always something that comes up. I think the thing for me, there were a couple of different things. I had looked what I thought were into the financials, but the organization had experienced some real difficulties, and I wasn't given the full story until after I was hired, and that's okay. But as I told y'all on the planning meeting, I spent my first ASAE in San Diego in the CEO lounge in tears, just asking for help. And I think that's one of the things I'm glad I did, because I'm not afraid to ask for help. And as a result, I was able to get the organization do some different things because of suggestions I got from people I didn't even know. And they were very kind, would sit down and visit with me and talk with me and say, have you thought about this? And Matthew also said it's something that I had never even thought of. That being the CEO of an organization is incredibly lonely in a lot of ways, because you cannot talk to a lot of people about what's going on in your organization. So it's really critical that you have that small group of people that knows you, knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, and can call you on it when you need to be called on. So I'm totally with them on having that cabinet.
So I'm a young professional, albeit on the end of the spectrum. Beginning, started depending on how you look at it. So in any case, I'm obligated to create memes and hashtags. So I'm just gonna say hashtag CEOs are people too. CEO about something that.
Absolutely.
So Tony, I want to give you an opportunity to weigh in here, having heard what some of the others have said. But would you want to react to that, or maybe bring up something that was surprising to you and unexpected in your own career?
So when you first asked that question, the first thought that came to my mind in terms of challenges is that all the things recruiters never told you. So, but I think Hannah has encapsulated some of those challenges. But I think as I think about this, one of the challenges I had, I was making what I said was that one significant jump in terms of becoming a CEO. I was a CEO of a smaller association, and I was making this next jump, which I was like so happy about, right? And I had done all the right things, made the assessment, I did all the right analysis, and I knew this was the next jump. This was going to be my happy job. So, and I took the job, and then 9/11 happened. So I was faced with going into an organization that was in one state, and in a matter of after this event, a few months, the organization experienced what a lot of organizations did then. It was right before our conference. It affected membership, morale of the staff, because we were in Arlington. And so I had to make a decision. I couldn't shy away from that, and I had to make a decision. It was my responsibility to take this organization through that. Yes, I had my board, and you had a staff, but the CEO resonates and gives, I think, life to the direction that an organization can go in. And so that was a challenge, but it's a challenge I decided I was going to take on. It wasn't going to be a woe with me. And so I just dug in and decided that I was going to fulfill my responsibility as a leader of this organization and take it through that. And we did come out on the other end, but that was very hard, particularly in my mindset. I'm going in that this is great. I have reached it. And then to have to say, okay, I've met every challenge that probably a CEO had to meet within that short period of time. But I made a decision to be committed to it and to see it through.
Wow. So powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I recognize we're getting deep into the hour now, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But I think people would be curious that, obviously we're all ASAE fans here. You all are fellows of ASAE. Most of us listening and that will listen to this later are at least members of ASAE, will attend events and be engaged. But other than ASAE, what are some resources that have helped you in your career? I'm going to start with Tanya. Is there anything outside of ASAE that you've leaned on to help you in your career?
So my current position, I manage a council of over 260 trade associations. And so these are all CEOs of trade associations. So any type of challenge, any type of idea brainstorming, I have a strong network right at my disposal. And they have been fantastic supporters, whether it's about meetings or programming or staff management. Through their career, they have had, experience that I can lean on. And then I also have just a strong personal network of friends in a variety, whether they're teachers or accountants, or, I just have a strong network of friends that I can really lean on for ideas, for inspiration, for, again, resources. So I continuously ask them for guidance.
Fantastic. Matthew, what about you?
So I guess what I would add is, so for me, I've always been interested in the connection between business and associations. So I have a business background in terms of education. And I've always been sort of interested in the connection between running a nonprofit, which is just a tax status, in a business-like way, and helping members think about the organization from a business perspective. And I think part of it is I also have the opportunity to work in, like Tanya and others, in business kind of trade professional associations. But so one of the things that I like to do is read and listen to sort of business leaders and sort of then think about how to apply that to the association space. Because I think there's a lot there that I think we can use as organizational leaders to unpack and apply to our work and apply, you know, apply it to sometimes a smaller space because we don't have the budgets that a Fortune 1000 company does. But I think the principles and all that I think are really appropriate and relevant, and I think have challenged me. So in addition to my ASAE and other association organizations connections, which I think have been really critical, that's other areas that I get inspiration from too.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Tony?
So aside from ASAE, which is sort of my go-to, I try to get involved in other boards and other volunteer opportunities. I think serving on other boards has been a great resource for me because one, because of my association experience, it challenges me to be a good board member because I don't want to be the person that talks about, you know, that you didn't read your board materials. So, so that experience is very helpful, and you know, will expose you to other maybe subject matters or other interests. So I find that volunteering or accepting when you have other opportunities to serve on other boards or other committees or advisory councils has been very helpful.
Yeah, great. How about Hannes?
I'm a huge podcast person. I have about a 50-minute commute each way into Kansas City from Lawrence every day. So I can get in a good 2 hours of podcasts every day. And so I listen to a lot of different kinds of things and a lot of different business leaders. I've really been spending a lot of time recently on marketing podcasts, and most of the major magazines. I was told one time that you should expand your horizons and read something that you would never, ever think about reading. So every time I get on an airplane now, I pick up a magazine that I haven't read. I'll pick up Men's Health. I've picked up Good Housekeeping. I've picked up Inc. Fast Company. I mean, anything that is out there that is not something that I necessarily read on a regular basis, I pick up and read on a magazine, on an airplane. And most of them have podcasts. So now I've got a whole list of podcasts that I listen to every day going to and from work. And it's amazing the kind of ideas that I can get from those.
Yeah, fantastic. And you get through all of those magazines regardless of quality.
Well, it may be that I don't pick up one on the return flight.
Right.
That's fair. So you all have been super gracious with your time and imparting lots of knowledge and guidance on those of us that are hopefully watching this live and then we'll watch later. I wanted to give an opportunity just in case anybody had any final words of wisdom or thoughts that we didn't get to that you'd like to impart on the next generation of ASAE leaders and hopefully a few fellows out there.
So I have one. I would say to the young professionals, this is going to be a journey, and you're going to have successes, you're going to have failures, but it is a journey. And the one thing I would say is just to always remember this, that it's never too late to become what you thought you would be.
Oh.
Like that. Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, this was the Young Professionals Committee presenting some distinguished ASAE fellows who walked us through some of the finer points in their career journeys and career development. And we really appreciate your time and hope to see you at an upcoming ASAE event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.